Okay, so let's talk about Infinity Pool and its ending. If you have not watched this movie, go and check out my review. It's spoiler free, so this is going to be filled with spoilers, of course, ending explained. But let's get right into it. Go ahead and subscribe and hit that notification button, and make sure that you also check out our Indiegogo horror film slasher we're trying to fund still in the description below. But let's get right into this. So Infinity Pool was one of those movies that when I first heard about it, I was on board. Cronenberg, you have also Skarsgard and Goth. All three definitely have been delivering some good projects, and so I was excited to see what this was going to be. We actually caught it at the premiere at Sundance, for one of the first midnight premieres, I believe, at Sundance, and this was just an insane crowd to begin with. We also were able to cover the press line, and we got a few clips and everything that I probably will show throughout this video, and also will upload later to YouTube, so keep an eye out for those. But this is definitely one of those films that I will say, when they tell you that this film is crazy, they are not lying. This film is definitely taking explicit to another level, and that is what I will say. I said it in my review that this movie is very explicit, and also fair warning, there's a lot of strobe lighting, so if you're sensitive to that, just know that. But let's get right into the story, and we'll talk more about the film after. So you have this author who is played by Alexander Skarsgard called James, who is out on resort vacation with his wife Em, who comes from money, and that's the way that Alexander has been able to maintain himself as well, due to him not even writing for 6 years. During this resort stay, they encounter a couple, of course, that is going to consist of Mia Goth, who plays the character Gabby, as well as her husband Alvin, and they are telling Em and James to come out to outside of the resort. They're gonna have some fun, they're gonna chill and all of this. It gets boring here. Go and meet some of the locals and some of the things to see out there. During this whole trip, they actually get too drunk at a point where they're not able to really operate that well. After any point, we see Gabby is sort of having an infatuation to James and trying to sort of seduce him at points, to what James also complies to. So we start to see James sort of slip between what is right and what is wrong, and all of this is being done behind Em and Alvin's backs. When they're going back home at night, Alvin is a little bit too drunk to drive, so James decides to drive, but the headlights aren't working that well as he's driving, and he totally misses and hits a farmer, and that farmer just dies. Gabby, Alvin, Em, and James decide to keep this a secret, but the next day the authorities come to take James. They then explain to him that on the island, how this works is, for foreigners, if they can afford it, they can make sure to have a clone made of them that will actually be executed instead of them, because on the island, the punishment for any murder is actually death, and the death comes from the children of the one that you killed. So they decide to do it. They are going to clone James. They're going to have the whole execution ceremony and all of that, but Em and James do have to participate in it and watch from the bleachers. And this is where it starts to get trippy, where you see James being cloned, and that's where all the flashing lights and all of that is. So if you want to know where they are, that's one of the scenes that you have the flashing lights. So just know he's about to get cloned. The flashing lights will start, and so we start to see that James sort of is seeing himself be executed by the young child, who was the child, of course, of the farmer he killed. And that's that. It's over. James and Em are able to go free and do as they please. Of course, Em is a little shooken up about this. James, not really as much. He sort of seems to be kind of like, I did that. I got out of this, and I'm okay. I did that crime, and nothing happened. We see that Em does want to leave, but James says that he has lost his passport, and he can't find it. He tells Em, why don't you just go without me? It'll be fine. Later that next day, we see that James is trying to see if he can stay another week or so, and that's when he meets up with Gabby again, who explains that Alvin and herself have had this experience with the clones and everything, and that it is just a way to sort of do whatever you want. Take off your mask, if you will. That's what they basically say. Do whatever you want, because you can just pay and get out of this for free. And so we see that they say, come out to a villa with us. We're going to introduce you to some of our other friends who have done this in the past as well. And that's where we meet these other people who are very sadistic and evil at their core when you think about them, because they are out there just trying to do whatever they want, no matter who gets hurt, and they are going to just be sort of vile at times. And that's one of the things that they actually plan to do, do is they want to sort of put James through these like hazing rituals of sorts, where they have him go and attack some of the officials, and then all of them get in trouble, and then at a point they all get executed. They're clones, of course, and they are witnessing from the bleachers, and you start to see James break down more and more from the person we met at the beginning, who seemed they were more reserved and sort of like kept to their own. You see this sort of animalistic trait of him come out as we get further and further into this. And one of the actors actually who was on the movie, we got to talk to him, said that this is very much so a Faustian tale, where you have this person who trades in something in order to have this sort of like unbarred, sort of like whatever I want to do is okay, hedonism lifestyle. And it is very intense and very insane how much they do in this movie. And you get to see them as they are sort of like brought to these very primal and very vicious like life that they are living now on this island, because they know they will never get in trouble and they can do whatever they want. By the end of it, however, James starts to sort of crack. It's not the life he wants. It's definitely more than what he bargained for. And we see at one point they even make a clone of James that they had James sort of beat up without James knowing, of course. And James is like disgusted at what's happened as they reveal this is another James that he's sort of destroying. And he tries to leave, but of course they won't let him. They track him down as he's trying to go to the airport. And then they have him sort of like have a walk of shame while Mia Goth is throwing like chicken legs at him and just drinking and belittling him. I said a perfect picture to explain this movie to someone is the one where Mia Goth has Alexander Skarsgard on a leash, and I said this movie's basically Mia just doming Alexander, and that's exactly what it is. So yeah, check it out right here. I probably put it up. But overall, by the end of it, James feels that he is able to escape as he makes a break through the woods, but they eventually are able to track him down, where they say that he has to choose to live or die and fight his clone to the death, which he does eventually after some sort of like hesitation. He has to, because the clone will kill him, and he eventually kills the clone, and Mia then grabs the blood off of the James clone and puts it on her breast and breastfeeds Alexander Skarsgard in one of the wackiest scenes we've seen ever. And then we see the next day everybody goes back home. Everybody's normal on the shuttle back to the airport. At the airport, everybody's fine. All the other people aren't talking about anything. Gabby and Albin are just talking normally about revamping like their house and stuff. But you see that James has been fractured and he cannot stop thinking about what just happened. And we eventually see that James decides not to leave. Goes back to the island and just sits there in the rain and just takes it all in. So what is that ending? What happened? So I think that we definitely have a movie of a man sort of being broken down, and you can kind of see it multiple ways, and I saw it multiple ways, and I'll talk briefly about all of them. But you can definitely see this as an ego death on screen. James had been having this ego throughout the whole beginning of the movie, where he felt like I can get to writing whenever, all of that, it's fine, like, you know, he had this sort of like way of going through life where he was just like whatever. Eventually, I think that what happened to him and that sort of like tempted him to go into this like very vile and dark life that Gabby, Alvin, and the others had was this sort of feeling of power he started to get. Sort of like, hey, I can do no wrong. Like, if I do a crime, I'll just get a clone, they can kill it, and I can continue doing what I do. And I think this is the same thing that the other people that were here with Alvin and Gabby were doing as well. They sort of felt this power, this sort of feeling of I can like go into as much excess pleasure as I want, and I don't have to think about consequences or anything like that. It's infinite. I can do it as much as I want, as much as I need to, and I'll be okay. At the end of the day, I'll go back, live my life, and then next year I'll come back and I'll do it all over again. I feel like it gives me vibes of movies that we've seen in the past, where these characters that seem to be vanilla, cookie cutter, at the end of the day show their true colors, that they are very wicked and vile people inside. And I think that's something that Infinity Pool really showed well. I think James just couldn't go back to that life anymore. He was sort of scarred by the end of it and everything that happened. There is a point in the movie where we see that James is, seed falls into the island, and I feel like that made him be more attached to the island, sort of symbolism of him being attached to this island now that he can't escape his own hell that he made for himself. As you know, with like the Faustian comparisons, he sort of traded in his own spirit and his own self-worth in order to gain all of this pleasure and excess that he got throughout the whole movie. But by the end of it, he didn't want it anymore and sort of got indoctrinated into this sort of cult of sorts through these hazings that he had to endure. And I think that really did give a very interesting look at this movie when you go back and watch it. There's definitely more meanings to this movie, and I will be making a full video talking more about the meaning, symbolism, and all of that. That video should come out on Friday, so stay tuned for that. But I just wanted to talk about the ending and why James returned back to the island instead of leaving. In my opinion, it was because he just couldn't leave it anymore. It was sort of like a place like that just felt like he belonged there. He realized what type of person he really was. I think wasn't like these people that could just go back from doing all of these like shitty things to people and them and everything they did as well, normal lifestyle anymore after everything that had happened and everything he had done. So I think he sort of went back to this island to punish himself in a way, or at the same time he was just like basically thinking he can only be his true self in this island as well. So we also found out that James did actually hide his own passport, which I think goes back into the whole thing about him sort of feeling that power at the beginning and wanting that power, and that's the reason he didn't want to leave. And I think that definitely backfired on him when he was desperately trying to find that passport after, because he thought he could hang, but he couldn't hang basically at the end of the day. But overall, a good movie. Definitely one that is more trippy than anything. Like I said, very explicit movie, strobe light warning for all of you as well. But I will be making a breakdown, meaning, and symbolism video on Friday, so stay tuned for that video. But let me know your thoughts and your opinions on Infinity Pool. Did you enjoy it? Did you not? I definitely see this being either hate it or love it. Don't see no one in the middle of it, so let me know your opinion down below. And make sure you check out our Indiegogo horror film we are still trying to fund in the description below. And make sure you subscribe, hit the notification bell. We're on the road to 30,000 subscribers, less than 4,000 to go, so super excited for that. Cannot wait. But as always, I'll see all of you next time. Stay safe, stay positive.